Thank you very much. And that concludes session 4 of our 5-part series. And it was an extraordinary set of discussions this morning. And not surprisingly, every panelist had a great story around how their organization was contributing to fighting climate change. And I'll just say, Justin, as an aside, we rarely take a step back and just recognize the great work that's going on around this province. Today, there were multiple examples of true leadership in the fight against climate change. Of course, there were a couple of panels, the first of which was around the carbon reduction innovation in British Columbia. And we heard from a number of panelists around the extraordinary efforts that are afoot, including Air Canada and YVR and what they're doing to reduce the carbon footprint of air travel. From Canfor and Arbios around their new biofuel project, and of course carbon engineering and this concept of actually capturing and permanently storing carbon, and of course Deloitte to kick it off with their thought leadership and actions on the ground. And I'll just say a few key points around this that came through, and this came through in the second panel as well. Around the sense that we actually need a full ecosystem approach where every player in the supply chain needs to come together to get us to our objectives. And the second piece, and you heard this again, both in the first and the second panels, around the role of policy, regulation, and taxation as a key ingredient to facilitating carbon reduction, but also to ensure that there aren't unintended consequences. And finally, and I'll just note this because we didn't really get a chance to get in it, this conversation around the carbon offsets and the difference between avoidance and permanent sequestration and the role that it has to play. And you can see there's quite a conversation that's going on right now around the world on this. And we'll see this at COP26, I'm sure, in about a month. And just a piece around the second panel and how we leverage BC's low carbon advantage that Kim moderated for us, and just the recognition that climate change, it's not a BC problem alone. It's not a national Canadian problem. This is a global problem. And we really do need to work on both fronts. And that's the demand side around reducing the carbon intensity in the products and services we consume. And on the supply side, the displacing high carbon units with lower carbon products. And the point that Greg made right up front around, the BC's resource products are on average 50% lower than those that are produced elsewhere. And so we in BC obviously have a role in helping the world reduce its carbon footprint. And we have this challenge that was described by several folks around our energy intensive trade exposed industries. And it's clear that BC's policy framework needs to recognize both the threat to the family business, as it were, and the opportunity that BC has to play, as it was described by Greg right up front and through our panelists. It would obviously be a Pyrrhic victory for BC to reduce our carbon footprint with the consequence that it was increased elsewhere. And as we know, the climate knows no geographic boundaries, and we need to work both on the demand side and on the supply side, whether it's aviation fuel, LNG, wood products, copper, many of the things that we produce right here in British Columbia. So that concludes our 4th session in our series ESG in BC. I want to thank all of our panelists. It was an extraordinary conversation this morning on multiple fronts. Of course, I want to re-thank our sponsors, Bennett Jones as the lead sponsor and Deloitte as our presenting sponsor for this session. And let's also recognize that this program is brought and made possible through the initiative of Greg and Cheryl and the entire team at BCBC. And we really appreciate the work that you've done to convene an extraordinary set of panelists here today and in the previous sessions that we've had. I just want to signal that we have our 5th and final session coming up on Tuesday, October 19th. We're going to bring it all together and talk about our path forward. TELUS is going to be a key presenter. TELUS, as you know, is not only a BC leader, but a global leader in the fight against climate change. And we'll have Jill Schnarr, the Chief Communications Officer for TELUS, talking about their corporate citizenship and social purpose. And with that, I thank you once again, and we really look forward to seeing you all again on October 19th. Take care. Bye now.